Hello. I just got out of seeing Godzilla -1. It was crazy. It was an incredible movie. It was awesome. I'm stoked. It was crazy. So before this movie came out, I'd seen a few trailers for it, but I didn't really have plans to watch it. But after it came out, I just heard such amazing things about it, and I saw really good reviews for it, so I decided I'd go and check it out, and I have to say, it has really earned all of the praise it's getting. It is so deserved, and I really recommend and encourage, if you are able to go watch this movie, go check out this movie. So, when Japanese films are released overseas, they're usually released with subtitles, English subtitles, or sometimes an English dub. But in Japan, you obviously don't get that because the native language here is Japanese. And from what I know, it's very rare for Japanese films here in Tokyo to be released with English subtitles. With Godzilla -1, though, there are a select few cinemas that are screening this film with English subtitles, so I was very excited and very grateful to be able to experience this film with English subtitles so I could follow along better. Looks like there's a news crew over there. Anyway, there have been a couple of instances where I've gone to the theater here in Japan to watch works that are fully in Japanese, completely aware that I wouldn't understand the dialogue. Just under a year ago, right when I started my gap year, I went to watch Suzume, or the Japanese title, please forgive my pronunciation, Suzume no Tojimari, which was directed by Makoto Shinkai, who's the same guy who directed Your Name, or Kimi no Nawa, which is actually one of my favorite movies. So I watched that twice in theaters. It was fantastic. And then just about a month ago, I went to watch the new Miyazaki movie, The Boy and the Heron. I watched it with my dad, and similarly, it was wonderful. On the surface, I think for some people, the concept of watching a film in a language that they don't speak, with no means of understanding the dialogue or the text on screen, can seem like a sort of roadblock to fully enjoying the movie. I can't speak for everybody. Maybe this experience isn't for everybody, but all I know is that in the few times I've watched a movie this way, I've had a really uniquely enjoyable and rewarding experience. Obviously, since you can't understand what the characters are saying in the movie, you have to pay attention to other things to piece together the plot on your own. Even though you can't understand the words that the characters are saying, you can hear the way they're saying those words. You could hear their inflections and their intonations, their expressions you could see on their faces. And those are just some of the clues that you can use to sort of discover the context of the scene. Maybe you'd pay more attention to the environments or the setting and try to use that as a clue to figure out what's going on in the movie. As I mentioned, both of the films that I watched that were fully in Japanese were animated films, which both had really, really stunning and beautiful artwork. And I found that since I wasn't paying as much attention to the specific words spoken from the characters, I was paying a lot more attention to the actual artwork on screen. And I'm glad I was able to watch it in this manner, because maybe in a different situation where I could understand what they were saying, maybe I wouldn't be paying as much attention to the beautiful art that was put into these movies. I remember after watching Suzume, obviously I'd gone through the whole movie and I tried to kind of assume what was going on throughout the movie. And then I remember going home and searching up like what the plot of the movie was, and it was interesting seeing what I'd gotten close and what I'd gotten, drastically wrong, what was drastically different. But yeah, it was funny. It's sort of like a fun puzzle to put together. Yeah, no, it's a very unique experience. I recommend it to people. As I said, maybe it's not for everybody, but I had a very, very fun time with it. If there were one thing that I could take away and share from all of this, it would just be a reminder not to take language for granted, especially English. There are so many beautiful works of art and beautiful stories, beautiful worlds that are out there in different forms of media, whether that be movies or TV or books. And if you sort of just arrogantly put English media on top of all of that by default and neglect all of that just because it's not in your language, then I'd say you're missing out. So that's what I'd say you could take away from all of this. Just don't take language for granted. Something I noticed pretty recently is that I've watched more movies in the theater this year, specifically since this past summer, than I have in many past years combined. And it's just good to see that the industry is healthy, especially since such a huge hiatus from releasing, big movies in the theater. Some of you guys might know that I went to school for filmmaking for a semester, but I actually was considering changing my major and changing my career path at the start of my gap year. For context, I've always enjoyed movies a lot. I've been making little movies on, my iPad since I was a little kid. And that's pretty much all I knew of making movies, just me and a camera doing, random videos. And when I got to school, I kind of learned what filmmaking is really like, which is a lot of different layers and steps, a lot of protocols. And when I was thrown into that after, not knowing much about filmmaking, I was pretty overwhelmed. And when I started my gap year, I was really considering shifting courses. I wasn't sure if I could see myself in that industry, and I was considering maybe pivoting to something else, whether that be, I'm sorry for the wind, whether that be photography, which I had just recently picked up at the time, or something like psychology, because I'm, a very strong advocate for mental health and mental health awareness. So yeah, that was sort of the situation that I found myself in. But kind of tying back to this whole sort of thing of watching so many movies this past year, I feel like, seeing so many wonderful stories has really reignited my interest in the whole movie making and filmmaking process. And to be clear, it's not just the fact that there are so many movies out, but rather the fact that there are really good movies coming out. I've definitely seen a few bad movies this year, but the ones that I've seen that are good have really, really inspired me and stuck with me. Should I name a few? No, it's okay. The point is, I'm sort of at the spot where my interest and passion in filmmaking has been reignited, and so that's kind of what I hope to do in school when I get back to school. I hope to apply to RISD. If you saw one of the last episodes, you'll know that that's the school I want to go to. I'm thinking of applying to RISD as a film, TV, and media major. I think that's what the major is called, but essentially it's the filmmaking major. And yeah, I'm excited for the future, and I have high hopes for the future. As you can see, I'm, experimenting with making videos again with this little video journal series. I hope to maybe make a few short films in the next couple months to include in my RISD portfolio. But yeah, it feels good to be creative again. And yeah, no, that's about it. I'm just happy putting art out there. And, it'd be cool if this stuff inspired other people and got other people excited to, jump out and make art. So, yeah, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, I guess, and a roller coaster of career path ideas. But we find ourselves back here. And, obviously, anything could happen in the future. Things could go well, things could go not very well. But, I think regardless, I'm just happy to have experienced, good stories this year, and it makes me want to make good stories. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I will catch you in the next one. I've got some exciting stuff coming up, so hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thank you. Okay, here we go. This is Future Joe to explain the context of this scene. Whenever I'm at this park, I always see this nice elderly man with a sort of toy plane with some sort of catapult, and he always shoots it into the sky. So I see him in this field doing that whenever I'm in this park. And I'm not sure if it's the same guy always or if it's a group of people, but he happened to appear in this frame while I was recording. So you'll see that in a second. I think it's pretty cool. I feel so bad. There's a kid who got his paper plane stuck in a tree, and now there's a plane landing because there's an airport right next to me, by the way. You'll hear the landing, like when the tires skid. Or maybe not. Okay, I guess not. That's all. That was almost 14 minutes worth of takes. I am ridiculous. I'm watching a plane land behind the camera. I'll get some shots of that later. Ooh, you hear that bell? And that's the sound I was talking about earlier. The tarmac. I think that's what the plane is. It's cool. Like, you can hear it all the way over. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wait for this helicopter to pass. I don't even know if it's being able to be picked up. What's with me and choosing to film near loud vehicles?